Hi, everyone. This is Kimmy Arkina, social media manager for AAPI and Gaming, and we are joined today by the lovely Sondering Emily, aka Emily Pitcher, right over here. Hi, Emily.
Hello.
Emily is a content creator with a 300,000 plus total following on the internet. She makes videos about game development, indie games, and insights into the games industry. Emily's work has been featured in Business Insider, the Game Awards Future Class, Malala Fund, and Forbes 30 Under 30 Games. You can follow Emily on Instagram at SonderingEmily and wishlist her upcoming game, Lily's World XD, on Steam now. And we will be sure to drop all those links in the caption. But first off, Emily, we are so excited to be chatting with you today.
I know. Thank you so much for having me. I think like AAPI and gaming is a topic that's just really important to me. So I'm really glad we can have this conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And once again, I'm obsessed with what's going on with your headset and the
Oh,
sprout. Kind of reminds me of Pikmin a little, or
oh, no, it does.
okay.
But this wasn't inspired by Pikmin, but I now can see the resemblance.
Yeah, I'm like, I wonder if that's okay. Anyway, so I want to open it up with a little icebreaker question. Emily, what is a random fun fact about you that you'd like the whole world to know?
Okay, so a random fun fact about me is I made my very first game while working my first internship. So in my freshman year of college, I interned at NBC and it was really boring.
Wait, what?
I would drive over an hour one way, over an hour back, just sit in the office and do nothing all day. They gave me small tasks here and there, but there was a lot of free time and I was really bored. So there is this platform called Twine. It's like I wouldn't even call it a game engine, but it's more a platform for interactive fiction. So you can like click on text that can lead to different branching paths. And I was super bored. And this was before I even knew that I wanted to work in game dev. I just found out about Twine and I was like, okay, this seems kind of fun. Maybe I should do something. So I actually made a game called Bored at NBC. Although I think I since changed the title to be like Bored at Internship because I was like, maybe I shouldn't write the actual place I worked. And I like used legit inspiration from my workplace, although obviously with a lot of crazy things happening too. There was creative liberties. But yeah, I actually made my first game at NBC about how I was really bored at my internship.
Okay, I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but I love how authentic it was to you in your own experience and so specific to NBC.
Yeah. It
Is
was a
that
very like corporate internship. And so it was like, it's like, oh, like you have to be kind of like fake nice,
yeah.
like all those like when you work in corporate, there's all these things you have to do. It very much embodied that. So I wanted to make a game that made fun of all these like corporate standards of behavior.
Please tell me this is somewhere on Steam or itch.io because
I think
I
it's on my itch, honestly. Pin sonderingEmily.itch.io. I think I actually have on my itch. Yeah, it's called Adventures of an Intern.
I cannot wait to play this.
And then the description is an absurdist twine game about the perils of office life.
Oh man, and
Mm.
I know that so many of us are let's say just, trying to survive corporate life right
Yup.
now. So I love that. So is that actually your introduction into game dev or like is that your start into game development?
Well, I made Adventures of an Intern, and then my second game came 2 years after that. So I wouldn't really say that it was a foray into game development. It was just I was really bored. And I found out about Twine. I thought this seems kind of fun, like a cool writing venture, because I've always been really into creative writing. So it was maybe like I dipped my toes in, but I didn't know at the time that I really wanted to do game development. It was just a fun hobby project.
I love that. I mean, and look where you are now. Seriously.
I know.
I mean, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. You're in Forbes 30 under 30. So tell us more about that amazing accomplishment and how that even happened in the first place.
Yeah, honestly, I I don't know how it happened. I should say. Well, okay, I'll tell you the actual like the facts, right? So I had someone in a previous Forbes 30 under 30 year nominate me, and then they sent out the nomination, and then a few weeks later, the editors got back to me to fill out another form, and then I waited a few months, and then I actually found out when everyone else found out that I got in. I didn't know earlier. So that's like actually how it happened. But as for like why it happened, why they accepted me, why the nomination worked, I don't know. I feel like, well, Forbes traditionally, growing up, what I thought it was like people who raised millions of dollars for their company, people who are very wealthy. I am not that. I'm just a girl who makes videos and games, weird games in my bedroom. So I was really surprised that I got in. I remember I woke up in the morning. I woke up late too. I woke up at like 10 a.m. I usually wake up earlier, and I looked at my phone and it was inundated with text saying, "Oh my God, check Forbes. Oh my God, congrats." And I like groggily turned on my computer and I was like, like Forbes, like it came out. So I clicked like, and I looked at Forbes 30 to 30 and I saw my name. So it was honestly really, really surreal. But I have no idea why I got in. The fates, the stars aligned. And I mean, I will say, like, back there, I went to the Barnes and Noble the next day. I bought the magazine, and in like size 9 font, you can see my name in there.
Oh my God. Okay, but that's so cool though. And I mean, let's not discount all the things that you've done. And with an incredible following that you have too, I mean, a lot of your content really does dive into just helping people figure out their path in game dev and the game dev industry. And your content is so catchy and so
Oh, thank
fun.
you.
So it makes sense that someone like you has an influence on a lot of people who can resonate with you, especially, females, AAPI,
Yeah.
people under 30, obviously. But just also people who seem very down to earth and genuine and are really connecting with their authentic selves. So I think that's
Yeah. I will say, whenever I meet people in real life, they kind of look at me as a game dev expert, but I am not. I didn't go to college for game dev. I taught it myself. I've also never had I've never worked in AAA, right? I worked for like minimum wage at a mobile game studio, and that was like my official game dev experience.
Mhm.
So I am just learning along with everyone else. But I think because I position myself as an online figure, people assume that I know more than I do. Nope, I'm figuring it out with the rest of you.
But I actually appreciate that sentiment because I feel like we're always constantly learning. No one is going to be an
Hmm.
expert in everything. And if you are, like, you just need to realize that, like, there's always still opportunities to learn and grow. So I love that you have that kind of framework because then more people can resonate with you, right? Because
Yeah, I
we're all
completely
learning with
agree.
you.
I feel like, gaming is a constantly evolving medium. If you are an expert in 2010, you're not going to be an expert in 2024.
Mhm.
So I'm constantly learning with new games that come out and just being inspired by how different game developers continue to push the boundaries of what games are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Emily, that is that's so inspiring. That really helps me battle my own imposter syndrome. Also, here is another question for you. Which video games were the most impactful to you throughout your life?
So I would say when I grew up, I had a very skewed view of what games were. I knew people who played League of Legends and Call of Duty, and I kind of thought that games were just that, like more violent. I didn't realize that games could have a powerful story until The Last of Us. So I actually watched PewDiePie play The Last of Us. I just stumbled upon the playthrough. I watched the entire thing in one day, meaning that I probably was just glued to my computer the entire day. And that blew my mind in terms of what games could be. I realized that they could be not only a funnel for people to have fun with their friends, but to tell powerful stories. So I really got into watching gaming videos. And then in college was when I got more into actually playing games myself. I would say the first game that really solidified it to me that I could be a game developer was Night in the Woods. So Night in the Woods tells a story of a young girl who drops out of college, moves back to her hometown, and reconnects with her old friends. And when I played that game, I was going through the same thing. I actually was experiencing some health problems at UCLA, so I took time off of school and moved back to my hometown instead of being on campus. And being in a place that felt so familiar because it was where I grew up, but also so different because it had changed while I was gone in college. And that was the first game that made me realize, like, oh wow, like people are telling my story specifically. Because for Last of Us, well, it can be very relatable. At the end of the day, it's a zombie apocalypse. The characters are great, but I don't relate to their situations. Versus in Night in the Woods, that's when I was like, oh, like I could have made that game. And that's what really gave me the push to start making games myself. And then since then, I would say another huge inspiration for me is Before Your Eyes. It is an indie game where when you blink, the game moves. So it is a game about life flashing before your eyes. It tracks your webcam, and the mechanic is you blinking. That's how you play the game. And it just
Wow.
tells such a powerful story with such a innovative mechanic. It made me cry. It made me feel a rejuvenation, energetic about life. So I would say like those three games are probably the most impactful for me. The Last of Us, which got me into gaming, Night in the Woods, which made me realize that I could use gaming to tell my own stories, and Before Your Eyes for being the best game ever.
Oh my gosh. Emily, speaking of games that really resonate with you, let's talk about Lily's World XD because from what I've seen, it resonated with me. As someone who is turning 33 this year, I grew up when the internet started
Hmm.
growing up and I was chronically online. I mean, I still am, but I was
I
chronically
was as
online
well.
on like AOL chat rooms, on
Hmm.
AIM, on Zynga. I was being way too TMI. So with that being said, Lily's World XD is clearly set in the 2000s, right? And we can drop the trailer too, but in the trailer, there's a playlist with songs that came out when I was a teenager, such as Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz
Hmm.
and Float On by Modest Mouse. And I thought that was a really sweet touch in the trailer. Once again, as I said before, I really resonated with the AIM style messages being super TMI in my blog that my friends followed. And thank God my Zynga does not exist anymore. Fingers crossed. But with that being said, I'm wondering what your decision in making the game with a 2000s aesthetic versus modern times, like what was the decision behind that? And especially with leaning heavily in the 2000s internet teen culture.
Yeah, so to be honest, even though my income, my job is literally making videos on the modern internet, I have a lot of complaints with the modern internet. I hate that social medias have all become really homogenized. I hate how everything is algorithm ran. I hate how the internet now feels more of a place to get attention than to have authentic expression. And so for me, when I realized, like, how did I discover my love for creating? That was the early internet. I remember like early YouTube, I'd watch Michelle Phan and I would do her makeup tutorials. I had my own very cringy blog. It's not online anymore. Don't try to find it. And for me, like I loved messaging my friends late at night, like Skyping with my friends late at night, Skyping with like the boy I liked late at night. And I just feel like that time on the internet is so precious and it's something that we'll probably never experience again because now the internet is dominated by capitalism.
Yep.
And so I just love that time so much. I just love how pure it was. So I wanted to recreate that experience because I know that in the real internet, we're never going to get it again. But I'm sure there's a ton of people like you and me who miss that era. I was a very cringy teen myself. I took so many weird selfies. I remember I would in middle school dress in my grandparents' clothes and then pose in my garage in these like very avant-garde poses, thinking that I was America's Next Top Model. And they're really cringy, but there's also this like, endearingness to it because I was just finding myself and my creative voice. As off as I was about my creative voice, it was still really innocent and fun. So I really wanted to capture that vibe in my game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you too. I feel like, I mean, leaning into like, how authentic you've been in your own games and experiences, I felt like back then it felt more authentic to us. If you look at
Hmm.
like things that teens are posting these days on like TikTok and Instagram, it feels very polished and manufactured and not really
Yes.
trying to like play into the algorithm and the trends. But we I feel like they really missed out on like, yeah, it was cringy back then, like doing the and Tyra Banks hit Emily up. You happen to see the little grandpa
Yeah.
clothes. But it was endearing. It is nostalgic. It was very pure in that sense, where we were just kind of goofy teens just having fun and really trying to explore our own identities, our own way.
I
So
definitely,
yeah.
oh,
Oh
I
no,
would
no,
say
go ahead.
I definitely resonate with that because right now my Instagram, which is where I post and express myself a lot, is heavily curated. I like let's say I'm making a video, I might film myself saying the same thing 4 times. I'll
Yeah.
have a script written. I read off the script. I say it in these different enunciations to make sure that I get the right one. People use filters. People will only post their best outfits, their best moments. Versus when I was a teenager, my expression was so much more unhinged. It was, I didn't put nearly as much effort in it, but in a way, because of that, it was more authentically me. So that
Yes.
also really influenced my decision.
Oh my gosh. And I mean, going back to the photos, I know you mentioned that you took a lot of really cringy photos in the garage, and we also learned that a lot of the in-game photos in Lily's World XD are actually from your own teenage years as well as your friends. So what was the decision behind that?
Yeah, so to start off, it was the fact that I'm not very good at art. I like to do art as a hobby, but it's not something that I would feel proud to put my name on. There are other games that also take place, for example, inside a phone. For example, a normal lost phone is a game that takes place in a phone, but it uses drawings. And I just felt like drawings would not work for me. My art is not as good as whoever did the art for that. Versus there's other games like Simulacra, but those use actors. I don't have the budget to pay a bunch of actors. And also, like, even if I were to pay actors, the photos are taken in 2024. I would need them to look like they were taken back then.
Yeah.
So I figured, okay, well, I don't want to take new photos. I should go through old photos. But then I thought, I don't know how to politely ask someone, hey, can I use pictures of you as a minor? And like really bad things are probably going to happen to you, or crazy things are going to happen to you. I just feel like that might be a little uncomfortable. People may not want their teenage selves expressed in that manner, but I consent to everything I want to do in my game. So there is no process of approval. I own the pictures, right? So like legally, I can use all of them. So that was what first motivated me. But once I decided, I could use my own photos, I realized that a lot of people follow my game development journey, and they're not just following the games I make, but they're following me as a developer. And this story is so based in my upbringing. So to add that extra level of personal touch, I feel like will be an extra kick to my audience who are not just playing as Lily, but almost in a way playing as me, who they've been following for years and seeing develop this game.
Oh, I just got chills and stuff. That's so cool. I also wanted to touch upon this. And let me just read what I prepared because it's super professional. But with the rise of the internet in the 2000s, there were a lot of worries with internet safety, including the evolution of cyber threats like the I Love You worm, online predators in AOL chat rooms, and malware from torrent programs like LimeWire. In fact, the Children's Internet Protection Act was enacted by Congress in 2000 to address concerns about kids' access to harmful content on the internet. So kind of funny that you mentioned, consenting to using images. So with that being said, did this historic shift in society influence your decision anyway to make Lily's World XD a psychological horror contained in a young teen's personal computer?
Yes, definitely. So back then, I feel like there was a lot of stranger danger. Your parents tell you, don't give out your address, don't give out your name, don't give out your photos. You never know who's out there. But I think that my game takes that internet hysteria. But what if it's not a stranger that's the bad guy? What if it's someone that you know? That's the kind of twist with my game that it is, but still done through web and someone looking at her blogs, her aim, her social media, etc.
Oh
I'll
man.
put it at that because I don't want to spoil the game.
Yeah, but that's like, it's so creepy, but like, that it happens to so many people in real life,
Mhm.
So yeah, I just thought it was fascinating, and just pulling from my own experiences as a teen in the 2000s and being like, how did this person find me? I think it's really fascinating that you elucidated on that. So
Yeah,
kind of taking it in a different direction, but not really. I'm curious to know, what were some of the challenges in actually building out your game?
I would say there's two main challenges. The first one is that I hate programming. I hate it. I wish I could get someone else to do it, but I told myself that I was going to do it. So the last time that I coded was when I was 16. I was in AP Computer Science learning JavaScript, and now I am 25 and I haven't coded in 9 years, meaning that I forgot everything. So I am actually learning how to code through making this game, which is terrible. I have daily headaches about coding. I frequently have to ask my friends how to solve my bugs. So that is just a huge challenge. And I think with a game like mine, it can, like, I mean, every game, of course, it cannot have bugs. So I am going to have to try to somehow code this to perfection using my own very limited coding knowledge. And then the second struggle that I've been having is that I've only worked in teams before this, and we all exchange design ideas or ideas in general for the game. So we could be like, well, okay, what about in this section the character does that? And then maybe one of my other coworkers goes, I don't like that idea. How about this idea? Oh, wait, yeah, that's a way better idea. Let's settle on that idea. But with me, it's just me. Whatever I say goes. And so I don't have as much of an exploration of different ideas because I only am looking through my perspective. So this is something that's definitely really hard. And how I'm trying to combat it is just to talk openly about my game design to my friends and see what they think about it. But still, it's a huge struggle because they're an outsider looking in versus I know everything about the game versus working in a team, everyone knows everything about the game.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's a really huge testament to how big of a brain you have with one having to like dust the cobwebs off of, something that you learned before, and then 9 years later you're doing it again through a project that's really personal to you. But I think another strength of yours is that you are able to ask for help, which I feel like a lot of people struggle with or see as a weakness. I personally think it's a strength. Because once again, we're always learning. People have a lot of different perspectives. You can always learn from others. And the fact that, you're kind of willing to lower your ego to be like, hey, I need help. What are some things that you can do to make sure that, my game isn't buggy or like anything like that? So I think that's really cool, Emily.
Thank you. But I really, okay, this is a point I actually really like to make, but solo dev games are never a solo project. In Stardew Valley, people say, oh, it's Concerned Ape. Eric Barone did everything. But that's not 100% true. He was partially partnered with a publisher, which helped him, and he had a guy do some of his art. So it's not 100% solo. Inscription is made by Daniel Mullins. These are all great games, by the way. But Daniel Mullins doesn't do any of the art. So is it really solo if someone is helping with the art, right? And so obviously these people deserve their flowers because they made absolutely fantastic games. But well, Lily's World XD is a solo project. I am not the only one impacting this game for sure. And I'm super thankful to anyone who has ever decided to help me code fix, help me look at my ideas. It is a team effort, even though it is a solo game still.
Yeah, it really does take a village. And I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful that you have such a supportive community and network with you doing this. So that's really cool. Let's go,
Yes.
community. Let's go,
I
friends.
know.
I love the power of friendship. Here's another little stat, just, being professional and stuff. But according to GDC's 2024 State of the Game Industry report, 69% of game developer respondents identified as male, and 65% of game dev respondents reported as white. Additionally, the decision makers in the gaming industry with over 21 years of experience, 87% of them are men and 92% of them are white men. So with all of that into consideration, Emily, have there been any challenges that you might have faced as both a female and an AAPI in a predominantly white male industry?
100%. I mean, even if you just read the comments on a lot of my videos, I am getting a lot less hate now, but previously, a few months ago, I would frequently get comments from people saying, "You're not a real game developer. You're just a girl who's faking being a game developer online for views." And I would get comments. There was one specifically that stands out to me that was like, these girls, like, these content creators who cover tech and games, they're fake. The girls themselves are real, but the skills are all fake. And these comments will get 1,000 likes, 2,000 likes. So obviously they're resonating with someone. So definitely being a woman in this industry, I have faced a lot of criticism. And I totally agree with what you said about tone at the top. So I think a lot of people look at Asians and think, oh, Asians don't experience difficulty in the workplace because they're usually very highly educated and they also usually get nice corporate jobs. But that is true. But Asians, like my upbringing was, I was taught that the world is a meritocracy. So if I just work hard, someone will notice and I'll be promoted. But the world does not work like that. And so while Asians can get in at a lower level, maybe even become manager, it's really hard for us to break like director level, the high positions because of the way that we were brought up or just, casual racism in the world as well.
Yep.
Also just to share some stats, I don't know them exactly, but if you look at the amount of VC funding in games for men and women, it's egregiously different. Like I think it was like in 2022, women only received over $1 million in VC funding in total, not just one company in total. That was amongst 5 women. So they each received about 200, 300 to 300K versus with men founded companies, it was like in the hundreds of millions, billions. It was something, an absurd number. I cannot recall it right now off the top of my head. And that's honestly because I truly do feel like who is giving out the money? It's white men.
Mm-hmm.
And whether consciously or subconsciously, they're more likely to fund people who look like them. And so it's really hard for women and women of color to advance because the people at the top don't look like us and they may not resonate with our stories. And so I think one example of this that really sticks out to me, and this a few months ago, I was going through a midlife crisis where I was evaluating whether or not I wanted to still be in games. And the story is I was previously working on a game that has since been canceled, and I wanted to pitch this game at GDC. So in the morning, I had gotten into a pitching event. It was, like 100 or 200 games applied, and they only pitched 6. And I was very lucky to be one of the 6 who got in. And there was a ton of publishers in the room. And afterwards, only the Asians went up to us. No one else went up to us, but there were still a lot of people in the room. So I was still satisfied with the people who came up. So that happened and I felt pretty good about the event. We had some Chinese publishers interested in us and, a couple other publishers as well. Later in the day, I did a second pitching event with Xbox and I was part of the developer acceleration program, which funds games made by underrepresented developers. And so it was an Xbox hosted event for developer acceleration games. And I pitched in a room of literally like 2 people. Xbox had hosted it. And it was the whole point of the event was supposed to be diverse games, and 2 people showed up. And it really sent a signal to me that I don't think the publishers are that ecstatic about diverse games, even though there is a huge market for them. So for example, Chinese is the most spoken language on Steam, more popular than English. So there obviously is somewhat of a market demand for Chinese storytelling in games. But because the tone at the top is not that demographic, I don't think they see the worthwhileness in telling these types of stories and even showing up to these types of events. So it's very heartbreaking. I went through, again, a brief crisis where I evaluated, do I really want to be in an industry that is sexist and racist and homophobic and all those other things? But at the same time, if people like me aren't in the industry, it will never change. It will only change if people who are diverse join the industry and make their voice heard and rise to the top. So since I've gotten over my little hump, and that hump is actually what led me to make Lily's World XD, which is a game made by me, led by me, an Asian woman, and about my story as an Asian woman as well.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sorry that you obviously experienced those horrible, horrible experiences that I feel like a lot of us can also resonate with, because that's just so invalidating, especially the comments. Like, they don't know you. So why are they saying that? Like, they don't know how hard you've worked to where you are and like all the things that you've had to overcome and experience and learn and do. So for them to just kind of troll away at them, like, man, I'm like, beat them up for you.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah, the crazy thing is that I will say in regards to the comments, I feel like most of the people who even leave those comments aren't real game developers.
no.
Because in terms of meeting game developers, I would say, I mean, there are some bad game developers. Have you read the news? about Blizzard or Riot, but a lot of indie developers I bet have been so welcoming and kind to me. And I really do feel like the haters are people who have never made a game or people who are just, they're insecure about their own accomplishments. So they want to project a reason why I am so accomplished. Like, for example, I posted that I was in the Game Awards Future class. And I remember I got this very, very lengthy Discord message that was like, hello, I've seen your accomplishments because you posted them online. I want to tell you that I can't take any of them seriously because you were only give them because you're a woman and you're a person of color. And so I can't I can't take your pity awards seriously.
Okay, so accomplishments are only for white men then? Okay, sure.
Yeah, exactly,
Sure.
right? It's like when I accomplish something, oh, it's because I'm a woman. But when another person accomplished something, it's just because they're good. I
Yeah,
don't know.
oh my gosh.
Doesn't seem right to me.
Nope, it does not. It's infuriating. And I'm so glad that you are just out there, literally like just raising your voice and inspiring so many people who look like you, look like us, and have experienced very similar things that are, very unique to AAPI and also just women. So I appreciate that. We're going to continue fighting with you and amplifying you. And we're so excited. And I guess last question to kind of like really wrap it up, because what a better segue. How can people better support AAPI individuals in the gaming industry and in general?
Well, firstly, I definitely think a huge way of supporting is just supporting our projects. Wishlist Lilies of World XD. But another way is, if you are working in the games industry and you see people of different backgrounds in your work, to uplift them and make them feel better. A friend told me, so she worked at a game company and it was mostly white people, and then there was a small crowd of people of color, and she ended up gravitating towards the people of color and ended up eating with them at lunch. And then a white person had reported to the supervisor, they're ganging up on us because they're eating lunch together, and why are all the people of color eating lunch together? And then she was reprimanded and told, like, you guys have to include other people. But really, they were just trying to find a sense of community because they were in a mostly white company and they related to each other's stories a little bit more because they had a shared background. So, I don't do that.
Yeah, definitely don't.
Don't do that. And I really do feel like the way to eradicate racism or sexism in the industry is to call it out when you see it. When openly talk about experiencing sexism or racism in the industry, a lot of people will tell me that doesn't happen to you. Like, that's not real. You're just making up these stories. Versus if you're in a position of power and you call it out, people are so much more likely to take you seriously. Again, I really do think, I strongly believe in tone at the top. With Sondering Studio, my game studio, every time we put out job postings, there's a ton of women who apply, a ton of people of color who apply. And I'm not I'm not saying only women are allowed, only people of color are allowed. I really just think it's because a lot of people see me as the head of the company and think, okay, this is a more accepting place to work.
It's a safe
Just because I
space.
exist. I'm not even saying anything. Just because I am, in a lot of ways, the face people think of me when they think of Soldering Studio is why people who apply to work for us are much more diverse.
Okay. I mean, seriously. But that's, I mean, the fact that once again, people feel comfortable because, they consider you a safe space. I think that that says a lot, and you're not even saying anything. You're just being
Exactly.
you, right? So, I mean, please keep being you. We encourage everyone to continue being our best selves, continue amplifying, and if you happen to be white, please be an awesome ally. If you're,
Right.
you don't identify as female or AAPI, please be an ally still, because we just want to make this world a very safe space for everyone. Yeah. So, Emily, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Once again, I learned so much, and I'm still like kind of shook inside with just how much I resonated with a lot of your stories and all the things that you shared. Thank you for being very, very personal and authentic. And yeah, we are all very excited. I would like to speak on the behalf of the whole world. We're all very excited to play Lily's World
Thank
XD.
you.
So once again, please do not forget to wishlist it on Steam, and be sure to follow Emily on Instagram, which is SonderingEmily, all one word.
Sondering. A lot of people spell it Saun, just to clarify.
Wrong kind of Sonder.
Yeah. And then another note about Lily's World XD, it is marketed as a horror game because it is a horror game, but it's not your traditional horror game in which there's a ton of jump scares with scary monsters. It's definitely more psychological, and I would actually say it's more emotional horror. So it is scary, but it's also a type of scary that's really going to tug at your heartstrings, and you're really going to feel for Lily and the other characters. So if you are someone who's a bit hesitant about the horror genre, I would like to politely ask you to reconsider for Lily's World XD.
Please reconsider. It's going to be amazing. Well, thank you again, Emily. We will definitely stay in touch. And once again, wish list. I was going to say Emily's World, Lily's World XD.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all.